This is how Mexico City looks just one day before the World Cup kicks off. It's crumbling, it's falling apart, the protests are destroying it, or is it just security to ensure everyone's well-being? Let's see. As you may already know, just days before the opening of the World Cup, there have been many protests in Mexico, and this highlights the political instability in the country. And this has divided the country. Some people say we don't need soccer, and others say don't ruin the World Cup, which is one of the few things we have. For example, look at this post on Facebook, which gives us all the protests like a calendar that are scheduled for June 11th. Among the people protesting are healthcare workers, farmers' organizations, transport workers, Pemex, and most importantly, education workers. And they're all going to gather at different points in the city, as you can see here. There's one group called the Searching Mothers. I support this one. I don't care which side you're on. I don't care if you support the World Cup or if you support the protesters. Searching Mothers, I support them over the World Cup and over the tourists. Before the video even starts, let me make this clear. Searching Mothers have all my support. Let's not focus on that. Instead, let's focus on these down here. The Sempre. Many people have said I act like the reina of opinions or know-it-all. This is a complex topic, and while I share my opinion, I don't see myself as the opinion leader. But what I'm going to do is give them the microphone. I'm going to hand it over to the leaders of the Sempre. Someone who can explain to us so that we can see from their point of view what's happening here. That way I don't tell you anything, I don't impose my opinion on you, I don't say I'm right and you're wrong. I just hand over the microphone to one of the leaders of this movement and you can decide which side you're on. At the end of the video, I'll share my opinion. Sound good? Ready? Let's go. A very difficult question, difficult if you allow me. I read in the comments of the first post I made about this issue, many people said, I support their struggle, I support their demands, but I don't support the blockades. So, what answer can we give them?
Unfortunately, as education workers, no, the government simply doesn't leave us any other option but to protest knowingly. We know it, which is why we're here. That part of the population won't agree with what we're doing. But another part of the population will agree. The government doesn't understand when you ask nicely, it only understands when you use force. And yes, it's clear, and we know that we affect a certain sector in a certain way. But in this case, our efforts are also focused on affecting the business sector. And basically, we're not the only ones as teachers who affect the population in a certain way, not just people from the state of Mexico, but also in other places. In fact, the transport workers say that tomorrow they will join the people's struggle and will carry out blockades. That means there's another sector joining in. And actually, instead of saying a bunch of things to us, they should show solidarity with us so that the problem could be solved much faster than we could imagine. This is called community solidarity with the workers from different sectors. To be clear, the blame isn't ours, it's the government's.
And here I came to take the light rail to go to Estadio Azteca. It would be the first time I take this train. I had never taken it before, I kind of wanted to try it out, you know. And I get here and it's closed because the teachers took it over. Look, there's no access here and it's guarded and everyone is taking other routes. Now shutting down the light rail. I mean, I support every human being's right to protest, demonstrate, and express themselves freely. Every cause that seeks change, every union that seeks change needs the support of the people. And when you block crucial infrastructure for those people, causing them inconvenience, it's much harder for them to support your cause or feel empathy for you. At what point does it stop being a protest and become a blockade of public infrastructure? I mean, where do you draw the line between your right to protest and breaking the law by blocking public infrastructure? Let's see if someone can help me out there. They even put up the sign that says light rail. It's already in English. Damn. Let's see what they tell us. Is the whole line self-service? But why, miss? Because of the protest. Whose protest? Ours. Why don't they protest at their own house? Why not go to the person bothering them? What does it have to do with us? We have to... All right, thank you.
Why do I blame the government? The lady, when she was campaigning, said she would repeal the 2007 ISSST law, that she would repeal the 2019 education reform. Because she understood that they were the result of a neoliberal structural policy and that she was not a neoliberal. So, through this platform, she is being asked to honor the commitment she made while she was campaigning and accept the responsibility that comes with it. And now as president, she shouldn't hide behind the excuse that it can't be done, because if she said it during the campaign, it's simple and straightforward. It can be done, but she doesn't want to do it. And why doesn't she want to do it? Because the ones who run the country aren't the politicians, it's the business class. And obviously, they don't want to affect the interests of the business class, even if it means hurting the workers. Because it's not the same to be a millionaire businessman with a ton of money as it is to be a worker whose paycheck every 2 weeks might be between 7,500 pesos, 8,500 pesos, or even as low as 7,000 pesos. We affect the population, we understand that people are upset, but let me be clear, we have no other choice. And instead of judging us, people should join the collective struggle for the benefit of the sector so that everyone could benefit.
Eat it! Which brings us to the next question. Do we really need soccer? Does Mexico need soccer right now given the current situation? Does any country need soccer? Countries like Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Canada do, right? Let them have their soccer, but Mexico with so many issues? Here is where we're divided. Some say there's nothing to celebrate now. And it's a good thing that there are protests right before the World Cup, so we become aware and the world knows how things are in Mexico, so they're not under that false illusion that Mexico is doing great and Mexicans are happy. And on the other hand, there are those who say this is something that should make us proud. We're in the eyes of the world. Everyone is watching us. We're popular around the world. This Azteca Stadium, just as you see it, is not the most technologically advanced, it's not the most modern or the most luxurious, but it's the only one in the world that has hosted 3 World Cups. All the stadiums, the most modern one in Qatar, the one in Las Vegas, the most expensive stadiums in the world, are envious of it. They wish they had the privilege of hosting the World Cup 3 times. Only Mexico has that title. And this stadium literally defines us Mexicans. I mean, not the most sophisticated or expensive in the world, but definitely the hardest working, the one that has given the most, and the one that has put in the most effort. And the one that's really popular around the world. That's how this stadium describes us Mexicans. Now let's go back to the question. Mexico is divided in 2. Do we need soccer or do we need social awareness? I mean, the kids who are at the protests right now are saying, look, not all of Mexico is perfect. We have all these problems. And there are people who oppose them who are saying, hey, be quiet, let us be happy, let us celebrate, let the world come to Mexico to see everything we have to offer, because there are so many positive things about Mexico, and that's undeniable. But at the same time, if these people see the opportunity for their demands to be heard, then they should take advantage of it. But at the same time, we have millions of tourists who are going to come and have a bad experience when they see all these blockades and protests. So, what do we do? What is the right answer? Who do we side with here? The protesters or the soccer fans, the tourists who want to come and enjoy themselves? Or those who see the opportunity to exercise their freedom to protest? What is the answer here? I'll give you my opinion. We can do both. We can host the world so they can come and see that Mexico is a unique country in the world. And we can also take the opportunity to raise awareness that there are many problems in Mexico. And we have to come together, have empathy for everyone, and fight for a better country without ruining the transportation infrastructure that will carry tourists, players, and Mexicans alike. What's your organization's name? I've mispronounced it before. I want to apologize for saying it wrong. I wasn't informed. But now the boss will correct me. So what's the organization?
All right, what is the National Coordinator of Education Workers? which would be abbreviated as CENTE, so it's not CNT. The organization is responsible for gathering support for the members who are part of the National Coordinator of Education Workers, because in this case, there would be a difference. CENTE and CENTE, with the understanding that the version with S is like the S of the snake. National Union of Education Workers and the coordinator, in this case with the C for Chingona, which is the one in charge of fighting for the rights of education workers. When the National Union of Education Workers does the opposite, it's important to understand the difference between the union and the coordinator. The National Union is at the service of the political and business system of this country and does the dirty work for the system by selling out teachers in decisions that are made and obviously end up harming the workers. Thinking about two central problems, the education reform and the 2007 ISTE law. If anyone thinks these are two simple things, they absolutely are not. That is to say, the worker, whether male or female, can be dismissed without any problem because of the legal framework used by the education reform. So what is lost with the education reform for the worker, male or female, is job stability.
Now, what is the approval rate here for the CNT? It's very hard to determine. I couldn't find any official statistics. I only found a survey from INEGI that was done, and it puts us at about 17 to 20% of the Mexican population in favor of the CNT. We can say it's 20% of the population in favor, 80% not in favor, and not because they disagree with their demands, but because they don't agree with the sit-ins. These people who say they don't support the CNT do so because they've been stuck or affected by the CNT's sit-ins, not necessarily because they oppose their demands. What are their demands?
The basic demands are two: to eliminate, to repeal the education reform and the 2007 ISTE law. It's simple. They basically end up without money that belongs to them. An individual account is not a pension. Teachers have been made to believe that the individual account is a retirement pension, but it's not. It's not a retirement pension, it's a saving system for retirement because it's the same savings that will be returned to them in small portions. In other words, they will give you a monthly payment that corresponds to your savings. But what's even worse is that if the worker who has already been dismissed dies and their money was handled by an insurance company, it's simple. The day the worker dies, the money is lost. If there were 500,000 pesos left in the account, the 500,000 pesos do not belong to the worker. They remain in the hands of the insurance company. It's a loss of money for the worker because all they're going to do is save. Not for their own benefit, but for the benefit of whoever is in charge of managing or paying the pension, which is the worst part of this whole thing. And let me clarify this part. It not only harms the colleagues who are in individual accounts, it also harms those under the 10th transitory provision, it affects retirees, and it also affects pensioners. Lifetime annuity, scheduled withdrawal, but in both cases you lose, there's really no good option because both are terrible. And what is a lifetime pension? Well, it's simple. The lifetime pension means they grant it to you, you die, and that's it. It's over. In other words, the widow gets nothing, and if there are minor orphan children, they get absolutely nothing because the lifetime pension is not inheritable.
As a child, I was greatly influenced by my teachers. My teachers were excellent people, and I think we've all had that teacher who was honest, kind, had integrity, and influenced us to be better people. In my case, my teachers treated us with a lot of kindness since we were children, a lot of patience, and now, as adults, we remember them. And those teachers who marked my childhood, I want them to have a good retirement, to have a good pension, to have a good salary, to have a dignified life.
So retirees and pensioners would end up in the same situation with a lifetime pension or with a universal pension. The universal pension, it should be clear, is not based on your salary. It's a supplement that the government will provide. And it will be the decision of the government in office at the time who will determine how much the retiree and the pensioner will be charged. And obviously the payment, it's not going to go up, it's actually going to go down because obviously it's not convenient for either the pensioner or the retiree, and it's even worse for those who are in individual accounts. Because they're simply going to work so that those who don't even lift a finger keep getting richer at the expense of the worker.
Well, now why? Why at the World Cup? Why during this tournament?
Well, the National Coordinator of Education Workers is not new to these struggles. It has been confronting the state for 46 years since 1979. And practically everything that education workers have today is thanks to the National Coordinator of Education Workers. Nor has it been handouts from the government, because the government is not going to give you any benefits at all. Do you really think the government will admit teachers are in a bad situation? Let's give them a little more money, just a bit more cash, nothing else. Year-end bonuses, premiums, bonuses, salary increases, vacations, retirement, collective bargaining agreements, dignified retirement. It's not a handout from the government. Basically, everything is owed to the process of struggle. Since 1979, the CENTE has been coordinating, which in these terms is the National Coordinator of Education Workers. The World Cup as a festive event is the least important thing. A year ago, we were in this place, we expressed ourselves, we protested, and the date, to be clear, is the least important thing. In the end, the World Cup isn't for the teachers. The World Cup is, as Noam Chomsky would say, for those who think they're the masters of the world, and those who think they're the masters of the world are the businessmen, the political class, but only those who are already well paid. In this case, if a teacher can afford to pay 150,000 pesos to watch a match, well, that's fine. I think he's going to starve for a year or two because he won't be able to recover that money, so we don't achieve anything, nothing happens. We'll come back next year, and if necessary, we'll come again the following year, and if necessary, we'll keep coming every year until we succeed. That the colleagues who have individual accounts don't have their money taken away, that it isn't stolen from them like that, because it's outright robbery, and they'll be doing it right in front of them.
No, that's it. Lastly, I understand that right now they're negotiating here, and if they don't reach an agreement today, what would the plan be? Tomorrow is the opening of the World Cup.
Well, if there isn't a concrete answer today, I can't decide if the movement continues. That's up to the ANR, and if the ANR says we go forward, then we go forward. Well, every good member of the center who understands the simple issue will keep moving forward so that both problems can be solved. If not, there's no other way, well,
Thank you very much. I hope you now understand the problem and their situation a little better. My opinion, just to finish, is only my opinion. Definitely a complicated issue. I agree with the guys from the Cente, but I also agree that the protests are annoying. But at the same time, I agree with the guy who says they don't give us another option, this is the government's fault. But I also agree with those who say the World Cup is the only good thing we have. It's just that in Mexico there are very few things to celebrate. And I agree with them, I agree with everyone, I agree with the people of Mexico, I support the people of Mexico. I agree with everyone, may courage be with you, and see you next time.